Hi everybody, my name is Triston, and today I want to show you just something really cool that I'm kind of proud of that I've been working on for a little while now. So you have probably heard about something called an AI agent, right? So agent the definition for that term has changed a little bit over the last year-ish. So there are basically three definitions for it right now. So you have the first definition, which is an AI that is able to communicate with other AIs, right? So you have like your project manager AI, like that, right? And then that project manager is going to have little specifically trained AIs for different tasks and those kinds of things. And so basically this one will work as the agent, and then it's going to go and it's going to interact with the the employee AIs, right? Another definition of an agent is an AI that can perform a task, but then it can also basically learn from that result, right? So if you have your results over here, then it can take this information and that's saved and it's actually fed back into the AI, and then it's able to remember like how it performed in the past. So this would be like your ChatGPT memories, for example. And then there's the latest definition, which is an AI that is able to go out and actually do things in the real world. We're going to pretend like this is the world. I'm an artist. There we go. That's able to go out and to do things in the real world for the user. So this would be things like all the stuff that Google's been announcing, where it can like make phone calls, where it can, just do stuff for you, right? So that's kind of been the idea behind these different types of agents. So that being said, what I'd like to show you all today is an agent, like a very, very simple agent architecture, right? So a very basic agent framework that I was able to build first using Harpa, which is my absolute favorite tool in the entire world. And then I actually have another version that I was able to build in Zapier, which I thought was pretty cool. And the Zapier version seems to work. I'm not as familiar with Zapier as I am with like Harpa, but if there is something wrong with it, I'm sure somebody will tell me, and then I can fix it so that way we can go back through and keep doing what it's supposed to do. So we're specifically talking about these two here. Though technically we could add in this other feature to it as well to have it actually like go out and do stuff. So this is it. This is the architecture behind it. So what this thing is three different AIs that are working together in order to complete a task. And in this case, the task is to create a YouTube video title. Now, believe it or not, creating a YouTube video title has been one of the most difficult tasks for AI and for YouTubers in general, just because it has a really, really, really hard time of creating a good title. It always adds in a colon, right? Whatever thing, colon, whatever thing. And like, they just suck. And, we've been trying and testing, experimenting and using different systems and everything. And it's just always been a really consistent problem. There are some folks who have put a lot of really, really significant amounts of time and effort and skills into building these things, and they have some really good versions of it. But I wanted to see if I could build it myself, and so that's what this is. So the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to have a set of inputs. So it's going to be the video idea, target audience, pain points, any undesired outcomes, goals, and then also the person's username and their email. That's all pushed over here. But basically, we need to know what the video is about and like what it is we want to happen when somebody watches that video. Why should they click? That kind of stuff. That information is all pushed over into the draft creating AI. So this is just I keep switching between Claude Haiku just because it's really fast and I like Claude, and then also through ChatGPT 3.5 again because it's really quick. So what I have is I gave it a database of YouTube title templates that part of come from a colleague of mine, and then also another section of that is from just my own research, going through and pulling out titles and drafting them, right? So we have this pretty good sized database. There's probably 300 title templates in there right now. So this first AI has to go through, reads through the entire database, and then it has to create 5 draft titles. And those 5 draft titles have 4 characteristics or 4 main factors that they have to pay attention to. So the first one is that it has to spark curiosity. It has to have some level of emotional appeal. It needs to be clear and short. And then it also needs to be aware of like SEO. So like, are we using keywords? Like, is this going to be a searchable title? The other things that are also pushed into the draft creation process is feedback from past cycles. And then again, like we talked about the video database. So it'll go through, create the 5 titles, and then that's pushed over into the analysis AI. Now the analysis AI is also pulling information from these. It's like all this information is pushed over here into the draft, right? But then these specific points, so the target audience description, the pain point, and the undesired outcomes, are all being pushed over to create basically a very simple viewer avatar, right? So that very basic viewer avatar says, okay, so I have these titles, I need to score them based off of these factors. In fact, let me zoom this in because I actually changed this. So this is now, I made some adjustments to this. That one's now 35, and this one is now 25. So it's a total of 105 points, and they're scored based off of each of these things. And so, like, you know, again, it's going to look at those titles and say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 35, you know, how much curiosity does this title generate? On a scale of 1 to 30, how strong is the emotional appeal for this video? So on and so forth. And it does that for each of the 5 drafts that's created. And then what happens is it will go through and it will analyze all the drafts again, do a quick check, figure out which one has the highest score. And then if that score is less than or equal to 93, actually it's just should be like this. If it's less than, again, I'm making adjustments to this thing as I go. If it's less than 93, then it takes the feedback from this. Oh, right, I forgot. So it'll go through, it will analyze all the titles again. It will actually create feedback based off of its scores and say, okay, so here are some things that you can do in order to score higher the next time around. And then that's all pushed back over here into this feedback section. And so again, if it's scored 93 or lower, it's all the information is provided. It goes back to the draft, and it just keeps going through the circle again and again and again until it gets a score of at least a 93. Now, the scoring system isn't just arbitrary. It's not something I just made up. Well, I guess technically it is, but there's some numbers behind it, right? So again, I have this database of YouTube titles, and so we have broken that down by the size of the channel, by how many views the title is actually getting, the view to subscriber ratio, so that we can see if there is, like, you know, if somebody's got 1 million views on a video and they get 10,000 views on it, like, that's actually really low. That means that the title isn't really performing very well. Whereas if somebody has 1 subscriber and they get 10,000 views, and that means that the title's doing really, really well. So, you know, we have this kind of weighted system going behind that. And then, so what I did is, like I said, went through, analyzed all these things. And so, like, your standard YouTube title, like just your average YouTuber, is going to have a title score around 60 to 70, maybe 75, right? Your more professional YouTubers, so people who are at like the 10,000 and up, typically going to have a score of around 88, 90. And then your top YouTubers are going to have a score around a 92, 93, which is pretty high. Like, if you kind of judge it based off of those scoring metrics. And so the reason I said, okay, it needs to be at least a 93 is I want to have titles that are consistent with, like, these absolutely top performing videos. I want the ones that have the highest view to subscriber ratios. I think that's right. So, like, the one that has, you know, the top performing titles, and that's what I want it to base its information on. So, again, like I said, it'll keep going through the system over and over again. It'll keep taking the feedback from every single round, and it will continuously improve as it goes through the cycle over and over and over again. And again, this one's running on 3.5. This one is actually running on Claude 3 Opus, just because it's really, really good. And again, that score actually increases, the average score increases every single time it does one of these cycles, just because it's learning from those past, the past cycles, the past feedback. I do have a way, and I've been kind of messing with it. I haven't found a method I really like quite yet to have a kind of general score system built in where it will automatically update all that. So that way future, what's the word I'm looking for? So that way it doesn't like reset back to its base state every time you run the Harpa prompt. So that can be done with like a custom GPT. That can be done with like the Assistant API. Or also you can take this and send the file out to, like a Google Drive and then call it through API or something like that. Just that way it's able to refresh all that and put it in the system. I'm also looking at a way to do that because the title database is huge and that eats up a lot of tokens, and that hurts. So that's one of the other things we're looking at. But yeah, so, and what's cool about this as well is that again, I measure everything. I let it run for like 3 hours, 4 hours the other day. And I turned off the ability to turn this off, right? So it would just keep looping and looping and looping because I wanted to see what it would do. And it was really interesting. So it created 500 different titles, and each generation, so like every hour that would run, then the scores would improve. So at first it was improving. It went from like an 88 to 91, I believe it was. And then from there it steadily improved until the average score was around a 93 and 94, which was really, really high. In fact, the highest scoring video was a 98 based off of this system, which was ridiculous. It was actually a really, really good title for the experiments I was running. But yeah, so that's kind of that feedback loop, which again, I think is really interesting. It's actually a lot easier to do this in, having, like I said, an assistant AI, just because that way you can actually upload or change the files that are in its memory bank, in its knowledge base. And then also with like the custom GPT, then you can tell it to like remember specific things and then update that as it goes through. So you do want to keep an eye on it just because it can get polluted. It can get corrupted. Bad data will go in and it kind of just starts messing with stuff. But that's why I'm kind of leaving it kind of manual for now, where I'll just take those best practices, after it's run for, again, quite a while. And then I will merge that with the existing prompts in order to form better best practices. So that's that part. Now, once it has a video that has, a title that has reached at least a 93, then what happens is it goes off to a third AI, right? So again, this one is also going to have the video title database in it. And so the way that I'm incorporating that, and I'll show it to you here in a second, but basically the first prompt that this thing does is I tell it to repeat back a text, right? And that text is actually just the database. And so it takes about 30 seconds for it to load that first part, but then that's saved as a parameter. And then that way I can call it in all these other prompts in the future. So it's a little bit of a loading screen there, but again, as soon as we get access to something like, access to the assistant API system within Harpa, or a way to call specific custom GPTs within Harpa as like a command, then I think that whole system is going to be a lot easier and hopefully it will cost less, which would be nice. So, okay. Now once it reaches at least a 93, then it's actually going to stop the loop. It's going to push the top performing title out to the third AI. And again, this one is running on Claude. And then from Claude, it's going to have that database again. And it's going to say, okay, so here's the best performing title. Here's why. Here's all the extra information about the video. So what we need to do now is we need you to create variations of this title. So if the title is, I built an AI agent to create YouTube titles, then it's going to say, is this the best AI for creating YouTube titles? How much time do you spend creating YouTube titles? Stuff like that. Questions. That's also going to do entertainment, education, inspiration, motivation, and relaxation and stress reduction. These are just the 5 primary categories of YouTube videos. And so if I wanted to do future videos that might fall under one of these other categories, then it would give me that option. I'm primarily going to be looking at education and a little bit of inspiration, motivation, just because I want you guys to be motivated and inspired by the crazy stuff I'm doing, so that way you can go and try and do some of these crazy things yourself. Next is going to try and maximize those scores. So again, it's going to be looking at the metrics that we're training it on and then create a version of that title, but it's going to each version of that title is going to maximize one specific score. So like if it's giving me a title and I'm getting 34 points, 29 points, or whatever, it's going to say, okay, so this is what that title would look like if we just focused on the curiosity, if we just focused on emotional appeal. And then finally, we have a list of different styles of videos. So top lists, your listicles, it's like top 5 AIs for creating YouTube titles, reaction videos, hauls, challenges, and tags, so on and so forth. And it's going to create 2 to 5 variations of each of these as well. And again, pulling from the database, using the information from the viewer that we provided at the beginning, and then also whatever that highest scoring title was from over here. And then that's going to give you back all the information here, in this case within Harpa. However, the Zapier version actually goes through the exact same process, but then with the Zapier, then it's actually saving everything to a Zapier table. And that's going to allow me to do some lead follow-up, to potentially do some affiliate marketing, to push out some courses, to do some joint ventures, that kind of stuff. Just building up my business in ways that I can control. So now that I have an idea of like what the theory is behind this. Let me show you this stupid thing in action. So this is the Zapier side. And the way I have this set up is I have a form. You fill out the form, hit submit, and then that triggers this zap right here. And then it calls a sub-zap, which is this, and this is the actual title generation and review. So this one creates the drafts. This one goes through the 5 drafts, creates the feedback, scores it, and then also provides a numeric score for that text. And then that pushes it back into this. And then from here, we've got a path. If the score of that video, so that one right here, is above 93, it goes down here, and this is where it gets the variations. If it's below 93, it goes back into this step, and then it's supposed to trigger this thing again and kind of keep repeating. That's the part I'm not 100% sure about, so we can do loops and stuff, but I'm not sure if that's actually the right way to do it. That's how the internet said to do it, but it's been working so far, but I figured that this is probably the one weak point in here that I'm not 100% sure about. But yeah, so it goes through that system. It updates the table and then actually emails the form or the titles back to the user, because that's one of the bits of data that we're collecting up here. So date, just so I can keep track of it, username, user email, video topic, avatar, goal of the video, pain points, and that all goes in here. And then that's saved over here into this. And I won't scroll over that way because it has people's contact information. But then these are the the different variations and titles and everything else. So it's kind of darn cool. Additionally, scroll all the way back up. If we were to do this from the Harpa end, then this is what it looks like. So first thing it's going to do, load in the titles. Like again, it's going to take a minute to run through. Once it's finished, it's going to let you know, and then it's going to start asking you for your inputs. Name, email. You can actually bypass the agent or the draft creation process, and you can give it a title that you already like, and then it will just give you those variations. So you're going to have a little drop-down menu right here, a couple buttons. Click if you want the AI to do it for you, or if you want to provide your own title. If you tell it you want the AI to do it, it will ask you what the video is about right here, and then it'll start creating drafts. So here are my drafts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it switches over to Claude and it starts going through and analyzing all of them. So here's the first one. How I build an AI that crafts killer YouTube titles, unlocked views and creativity. It scored an 88, right? And then there's that colon we're always talking about, that freaking colon. And then just some analysis and some feedback, right? So here's the next one. The secret to exploding your YouTube views, this AI title generator. This one scored a 94, so I actually thought it was pretty good. It's all right. It's not perfect. I have since adjusted the scoring system on this, as you may have noticed. Next, stop making these title mistakes. AI to the rescue for busy YouTubers. Scored an 88. Never struggle with your AI titles again. AI tool reveals how. 96. I actually really like that one. And then 95, and so on. So it's this one here was its favorite. Or no, excuse me. Here's the feedback for it, and then here was its favorite title: transform YouTube strategy, AI-driven titles for instant growth. And then after that, it started creating my variations. Can AI-driven titles really skyrocket your YouTube growth? Is YouTube strategy out, or is your strategy outdated? So on and so forth. Your entertainment, education. Probably gonna be using one of these for this actual video. Inspiration, motivation, relaxation, stress reduction. So like stress less about your views, relax and watch your channel grow, ease your YouTube struggles. And then here are the ones that maximize the different categories. So maximizing your curiosity, emotional appeal, clarity and brevity, and so on and so forth. And then your kind of like your mix of stuff. So like here are your listicles, here's your reactions, challenges and tags, interviews, education, gaming, music, so on and so forth. And then this one actually does still push the information back into Zapier, so I can get the final titles via email, which I thought was kind of cool. Just that way I can keep track of everything else. And then most of this other part. So if you're curious, the reason that this is actually running on the GPT-4 API is because I used up all my Claude stuff and I had to switch to something else. And then this is what the email actually looks like. So it just says, hey, your titles are ready. Here's the topic. Here's the audience. And then here's your best performing title. That has the highest score. And then here are your sets of variations. So this is actually probably where I'm going to be taking the title from this video from. I need to read through this. But yeah, so like I said, I thought it was really cool. And the other cool thing about this as well is because this is just a form, I can take this, I can embed this behind a paywall. So that way I can charge, 10, 15, $20 a month just to cover my API costs, because this thing runs through a lot of tokens. But I think it's a really neat example of this agent architecture. I think it's a really interesting application for the feedback loop, for the learning system, and for that continuous improvement. And then for that, kind of your if-then statements, your conditions for when the loop actually breaks. And again, it can give me some really interesting opportunities for future business things as well, since I plan to do this as like a service, something that people can sign up for. But yeah, like I said, it's cool, and you can use the same kind of setup, the same kind of system for all kinds of different things, right? So I have an AI right now that is posting for me on LinkedIn, because apparently I need to be on LinkedIn, but it's boring and I don't enjoy it. And so I built an AI to do those posts for me. And so what I can do is I can take the feedback, the comments, the likes, the impressions, and everything from those posts, feed that back into the AI, so that way it will then perform better with its next posts and continually improve and get better and smarter until eventually that AI has taken over LinkedIn, if AI hasn't done so already. But so we can do stuff like that. We can do just about anything you can think of, like anything that would require an AI to learn from its past efforts and to continuously improve. And I also think is really, really helpful when you have like these two AIs that are kind of working together, right? Or multiple AIs. So like in this case, this AI right here is a copywriting AI. It knows how to write copy. That's what I trained it to do. That's what its instructions tell it to do. Whereas this one's job is to represent the viewer. It is supposed to know what the viewer wants. It wants to know why they want it, and to understand what is going to drive them to actually click on the video. And it's done the same thing over here, where it's going to take all this other information and then build upon that as well. So it's just a cool system. And like I said, I wanted to share it and show you guys how this works, and then also kind of encourage you to kind of do the same thing. Real quick before I forget, the prompt style for this. So this is what it actually looks like. So here is the templates upload. Here are my inputs. Here is where it's going to ask you whether or not you want to have the AI create your drafts, or if you want to create, input your own draft. If you say yes, it's going to jump. If not, it's going to come down here to the draft step. It's going to do the draft. Again, turning on the specific AIs. And then as soon as that draft finishes, then it is going to go down to the analysis. And then down here, I also have my there's a jump. So if it scores, again, below the certain number, so in this case it's a 91, again, I keep updating these things. If it's under a 91, it actually jumps back up to the draft step and it repeats, and I'll just keep going and going and going and going until it gets above 91. If it gets above a 91, or above a 92 in this case, then that's when it goes and creates the variations, and then it sends the hook out to Zapier, and then it says, hey, you're going to get an email here in a second. So that's how that works. But yeah, it's cool. And like I said, I'm really excited to see what else comes out of this. Like, I don't know how to code. I don't know how to program. I'm using very low code, no code systems to build some of these automations. And I can only imagine what people who have that skill set are able to do with this, and like what kind of cool tools are being built, and what kind of things we're going to be able to do with this here in the next 6 months, maybe even less. So hopefully this video has been interesting. Hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully this has inspired you to go out and create your own AI agents and give you a better understanding of how the AI agent's architecture works. And see you in the next one.